Great. No, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Saturday afternoon. I'm Raghav, part of Healthcare Continuum, and along with me, Manish ji and Shekhar ji. And it is our pleasure to welcome you all to today's Healthcare Masterclass, an initiative to drive continuous learning for informed decision making in leadership. Today, we are thrilled to have such a distinguished speaker with us, Colonel Hemraj Singh Parmar. A very warm welcome, sir, and thanks for taking out time to share knowledge on such an important topic. Uh,
Thank you, Raghav.
Colonel Parmar is a visionary leader with over 30 years of global healthcare experience, having served in numerous senior roles, including Group CEO of BR Life, COO of Global Hospitals, and many others, and Director of Healthcare at the Indian Army. Such an accomplished leader. It is our honor to have you here, sir. Your journey has nothing been short of remarkable, from leading large hospital chains, healthcare chains across multiple countries, to co-founding Ayush Pay, a disruptive healthcare fintech startup to make quality healthcare accessible to Bharat, especially in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is a must need for today's time. Uh, Colonel Parmar will share his invaluable insights on 3P, a playbook for M&A and turnaround of healthcare assets and facilities. While 3P would sound very small, but that would have a lot of depth into the elements of preemptive, proactive, and prescriptive approach to mergers, acquisitions, and hospitals turnarounds promises to be both insightful and practical in today's world, in an era where healthcare systems are undergoing such a rapid transformation. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Colonel Hemraj Singh Parmar, sir. Very warm welcome, sir. Please take over.
Thank you so much for that quick introduction, Raghav, and also Manish ji for organizing this class. So, hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to this interactive discussion on the mergers and acquisitions and the turnaround strategies for healthcare facilities. So at some point or the other in your career growth, most of you would be required to partake of this important aspect of healthcare in whatever capacity you are currently working in your organizations. And of course, as you grow into senior leadership roles and C-suite, some of these strategies will be extremely important and come in handy in handling larger mergers and acquisitions, and of course, the turnaround of the healthcare facilities. Yeah, so the scope of this presentation will be, we'll quickly have a look at the overview of the healthcare industry. What does it entail? What is the capacity like? What are the current challenges? Some of the growth levers for, the growth and turnaround in the healthcare facilities. We shall also have a quick look at the power of the social media, in the 21st century, how we can leverage this to build our healthcare facilities into profitable enterprises. Of course, nothing gets done in the healthcare facilities without very strong, robust marketing, branding, and PR paradigms. I'll also take you through a 100-day plan, which I prepared for one of the major facilities, a JCI accredited hospital that I had the privilege of acquiring. This is the strategy 100-day plan, which I had planned for that facility along with my team. We'll go over it quickly. And in the end, we will have a questions and answer session in whatever lingering doubts are there, you may please ask. So before we proceed further, about this presentation, it is purely based on my personal experience in various healthcare groups, at various levels. The KPIs will vary from hospital to hospital, region to region, as we all know that the healthcare is highly localized business. And it would vary from secondary care to tertiary care, quaternary care, and it will be different, of course, for a greenfield project to a brownfield project. A greenfield project requires more focus, attention, and also effort in building it up from the proverbial scratch. The KPIs will, of course, be significantly influenced by the operational and clinical efficiencies in a hospital. Right? What kind of doctors you have, highly specialized, with good reputation, with excellent, consistent outcomes, your top line and profitability of the hospital and its brand recall will be directly impacted by that. As we have seen, during the COVID event, we live in a VUCA world wherein things can be thrown haywire by some of these force majeure events, which could significantly impact your operations and profitability. The proportion of cash and credit business will also impact the KPIs. The ideal situation should be that a hospital should have 100% cash business, but that's not really possible in real life. There will always be some credit business which will be consistent and which will help in the early break even or building the profitability. There is seasonality in our healthcare business. We all know maximum elective surgeries happen during winters. During the rainy season, we have dengue, and there is a spike in the medical cases and admissions during this period. And of course, the medical value travel business, because there are markups on the hospital's rack rate or schedule of charges for international patients, thereby leading to a higher yield. So they will also impact your KPIs. So let's have a quick glance at the healthcare industry, how it stacks up in our country. As you all know, currently, we are the 5th largest economy globally, 3rd largest in terms of PPP at almost $15 trillion. We've crossed $4 trillion in terms of the size of the overall economy. Now, just to have a look at a comparative figure of the biggest economy globally, which is the US economy, is almost $29 trillion. Okay, so US currently spends almost 20% of its GDP on healthcare, whereas we spend less than 5% of our GDP on healthcare delivery. So if you look at the size of the US healthcare economy itself, is much bigger than the Indian overall economy. The current size of our healthcare industry is estimated at $372 billion, a number which is likely to increase to $638 billion by 2025, growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 16 to 70%. Healthcare is one of the biggest industries in terms of employment. More than 7.5 million people are employed by the industry. We have more than 70,000 hospitals across the country. 63% of them are in the private space, right? In the last budget, we had an outlay of 90,000 crores for the healthcare industry. And slowly the government of India has promised to increase the expenditure, the government expenditure, from current of 2.11% of the GDP to around 2.5% of the GDP by year 2025. Just to give you an idea, US spends 20% of its GDP, as I was saying, on the healthcare. And most of the OECD countries, some of the advanced economies in the Americas and the Europe spend 8 to 10% of their GDP on healthcare delivery. We are currently much below that, but I'm sure in due course of time, with the help of the private healthcare industry, we will be able to reach that milestone as well. There are a lot of gaps, currently in our healthcare delivery ecosystem. Our nursing and doctor ratios, the number of beds, they do not stack up as per the WHO norms. But we are building capacity. As you're all aware, till 2014, we had a very small number of hospitals, and thereafter we've added almost 157 more medical colleges, thereby substantially increasing the number of allopathic and Ayush doctors. We currently have an overall shortage of around 6 lakh doctors and 2 million nurses. We have currently more than 1 million beds, and there is a shortfall of around 2.4 million beds in the country. Now, think about it, the average occupancy at the national level is just about 56%. So where really is this shortfall of beds? The major challenge is in the tier 2, 3 cities and rural areas where this shortage of beds is really felt. Now, even the bed as a concept of, ensuring healthcare delivery is totally flawed. We will look at it, revisit this in our subsequent slides. So in the, care pyramid, you have primary care clinics or wellness clinics. The government of India had proposed 150,000 wellness clinics across the country. We already have more than that number, and this is going to substantially increase over the next few years. Secondary care hospitals, tertiary care hospitals are a little higher in terms of clinical excellence and infrastructure. And the quaternary care hospitals handle all types of complex surgeries and organ transplants. Okay, some of them may have outsourced departments, which we'll have a look at in the subsequent slides in terms of a shopping shop model. There is a new trend in the healthcare, in the hospital industry of single specialty chain. So the healthcare industry is really evolving into an integrated ecosystem where all the specialties come together to provide a holistic treatment to a patient. But as we have seen, around the globe, and so also in India, single specialty chains are also complementing the healthcare delivery. We've seen some of the very successful business model in terms of oncology. You have HCG, American Oncology, and so many other companies which are complementing the legacy providers who provide multi-specialty treatment under the same roof. Mother and child, IVF, daycare surgeries. This is another area, daycare surgeries. So when we talk about the number of beds as a measure of, that the UN mandated 3 beds to 1,000 people and all, that can be taken care of through the single specialty and especially the daycare surgeries, wherein the throughput can be substantially increased without worrying so much as, with the number of beds available in the country. Medical oncology chains are there, renal care chains, home healthcare companies have sprouted all across the country, and they're really taking care of the patients for the rehabilitation and also away from the healthcare facilities. As we all know, that the healthcare delivery is actually moving slowly away from the hospitals. In future, you will have patients taking treatment in the hospitals only in case of emergency or elective surgeries. All other patient care can actually be taken care of either at home or some of the selected facilities well away from the hospital groups. And we have realized the importance of this paradigm during COVID pandemic, and also obviously there could be more pandemics in future. Diabetes also, dialysis center, these are other single specialty chains which have found favor and which have slowly stabilized the healthcare delivery. Just to complement the legacy players, we have a large number of health tech companies, e-pharmacy chains, EMR, EHR, deep tech, healthcare IT, e-diagnostics. Today at the press of a button, you can order blood, urine, stool collection at home, and the report becomes available to you within 24 hours online. You need not visit a healthcare facility, something which was absolutely unthinkable just a couple of years back. Now, so hospital industry is really unique in many aspects. And some of the major challenges which we encounter on a daily basis are as shown on this slide. We all know that the hospital industry is capital intensive, which means, today to build single bed in a big city or metropolitan cities can cost upwards of 2 crore. So if you're building a 300 bedded facilities, take it from me, the cost will be anything from 600 to 800 crore rupees. It could be even more depending on the clinical excellence, the infrastructure, and the facilities you want to provide, which means that your expenses and your rate of interest are starting from the day you build the facility. And there is a race to break even as quickly as possible, which calls for, operational, clinical, and administrative efficiencies into your ecosystem. Inaccessible and poorly selected location of hospitals. Many people have a large parcel of land available outside the major population centers, and they think it will be wise to build a facility just because you have a parcel of land available. There are certain recommended attributes of a greenfield or a new healthcare project which you need to keep in mind so that your facility becomes profitable or breaks even as quickly as possible. We will have a look at that slide. Subsequently, it's very important to site a new facility prudently, and the planning starts right from the planning stage itself. Poor leadership and management. Some of the facilities are not managed properly. They are not profitable just because they are not being managed properly. You have consistently low OPD footfalls, which leads to lower conversions to IPD footfalls, which means a lower number of surgeries and suboptimal cranking of your major revenue centers in the hospital. Most hospitals have suboptimal turnaround timings, admissions, discharges, they lead to major heartburns in any facility, from the patient's viewpoint, and reduce considerably the overall patient experience. So your admission rates, discharges, and approvals for insurance patients and the ability to see a doctor as quickly as possible after you reach a facility are some of the very important aspects you need to look into. So some of these above factors lead to lower revenues and EBITDA margins, and of course the profit after tax. We'll have a look at this, how EBITDA margins are totally impacted by the ARPP, average revenue per patient, and average revenue per operating bed. Another major aspect is the high attrition rate. So most hospitals have 30 to 40% annual attrition rates, and the larger proportion of this attrition is among the nursing staff. Low working capital. We know that most hospitals would have some kind of credit business, which is ECHS, CGHS, Ayushman Bharat, ESIC, some of the state government health schemes. Your working capital gets locked because once a patient is discharged, your money will come to the hospital, anything 60 days to 90 days. And your working capital gets logged into accounts receivable. If you look at the aging of most of the healthcare facilities, you will find it runs anything from 6 months to 3 years in certain cases. And most of that money, which exceeds 1 year, is actually, it becomes your NPA, non-performing asset. A huge loss. Various studies have shown that most hospitals have just 19 days of working capital available. And that's why you have to stagger salaries, of doctors, staff, and your vendors. So because your accounts receivables become large, you're not able to run the hospital operations efficiently. And then you have to take ODs from the banks or, withhold the payment of your vendors. Unionization and political activities in some of the hospitals. I've had 2 hospitals as a CEO, which were highly unionized, and they decided which doctor will stay, if a doctor needs to be taken or not, which nurses or corrupt staff cannot be fired. And they would go on dharna at the slightest pretext, ask for better revenue, remunerations arbitrarily, and create a ruckus and not let a facility grow. So I fired those unions into hospitals with the help of the local government in those states, and taking help of some of the labor unions and other aspects. So this is a major aspect in some of even the bigger hospital chains are facing the brunt of this problem. So also the brand recall, once it is built, there is a steady flow of patients to your facilities. Anybody, any questions so far? Raghav, we can proceed.
Yes, please feel free to type in the questions in chat or any thoughts that you have, agreeing, disagreeing, anything you have that strike a thought, just feel free to put in chat and we'll take up, or feel free to unmute yourself as well.
Excellent. Thank
Please,
you,
sir.
Raghav. Yeah. So these are some of the major revenue centers in any, yeah.
Hi, Raghav. This is Dr. Jyoti Rao here. Great to hear Colonel Hemraj. I'm sure it's really indeed a pleasure to have you. Just wanted to say that your chats are disabled actually. So
Okay.
yeah, so nobody can't even type there.
Oh, okay, my bad. Is it
Yeah,
working now? I just
yeah,
enabled it.
yeah. So I'll ask you a question, Dr. Colonel Hemraj, maybe at the end of the session. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Rao. Lovely to see you here. Yeah. Okay, so proceeding ahead. So these are some of the revenue centers in a hospital. So operation theaters, ICUs, diagnostic laboratories, pharmacy, and of course we have other value-added services. So 80% of your revenue will come from these major revenue centers, and the balance from your other value-added services. Okay, so let's look at some of the valuation trends. So when we are talking about the profitability in the hospitals, we also need to see what exactly are the for-profit organizations built for. So what is the purpose of any business, for-profit business? Basically to create value for all its stakeholders, including its investors, customers, employees also. So you would be seeing when a lot of companies go public, part of the value is shared in good organizations with the employees also. So everybody must grow. And of course, every project must create some positive impact on the society at large. So some of the KPIs which play a very critical role in the overall profitability and thereby valuation are these which are shown. Average length of stay. So average length of stay actually reflects directly the throughput in a hospital. How many patients can be discharged? Right? So basically, the lower the number of the average length of stay, higher the bed turnover ratio, and more the number of patients you can discharge. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have a 30 days month. This is September, 30 days month, 4 Sundays and 2 holidays. So we have practically 24 days. If a hospital had 3 days of average length of stay, okay, so 24 days divided by 3 is 8. So you can turn over, let's say 200 beds are there in the hospital. You can turn over the beds 8 times, 200 beds turned over 8 times is 1600 discharges. Now, if your number of the average length of stays goes up to 6, you can only discharge half the number of these patients. And this will directly impact your top line, your EBITDA margins, and your overall valuation when somebody is looking at acquiring a hospital or a healthcare facility. Your EBITDA margins and everything will be directly impacted by this. So average revenue per patient, obviously, the higher it is, depending on the facility you are, typically in a tertiary and quaternary care hospital, your average revenue per patient, which is calculated by dividing the revenue by the number of discharges, if it is higher, if it has high-end specialties, it will be higher. Secondary care facility obviously will have a lower ARPP and RPOB. But the RPOB itself doesn't give out holistically. I mean, if a facility has a higher RPOB, it doesn't necessarily mean it is more profitable, because there are a lot of costs associated with the generation of that business. A facility which generates a lower RPOB, but a much significantly lower cost, will be more profitable. That's why some people recommend that instead of RPOB, we should have ACPOB, which is average contribution per occupied bed, which is, seriously the contribution margin by removing the variable costs associated with the generation of that business. There are dozens of ways of calculating the enterprise value of any healthcare facility or hospital group or diagnostic chain. But today we'll talk about two of them, EBITDA multiples and revenue multiples. So I've listed some of the other important ones. So when you are evaluating the enterprise value of any healthcare asset, you will actually carry out the assessment of all these valuations. You draw up a graph which is called like a football field, and then somewhere in the middle lies the truth, the true value. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I think there was a disturbance. Please continue.
Okay. So EBITDA multiples and revenue multiples have come to signify the truth in evaluating the healthcare facilities enterprise value. And as we all know, there is a very dynamic consolidation which is currently going on in the healthcare industry. Till now, we had Apollo Hospitals, which had the privilege of having the largest number of beds, but Manipal has slowly caught up and has actually exceeded the number of beds in terms of fresh acquisitions, which it has carried out in the recent times. So there is consolidation going on by acquisition of new healthcare facilities. There are a lot of organic growth also, which is happening by increasing the capacity internally, by increasing the number of beds or other equipment and infrastructure within the existing facilities. Max is very aggressively going on for fresh acquisitions and building of new hospitals. And over the last 2 years, almost 2,600 beds have been added by various legacy players. IHH Group, which is Singapore-based, they have acquired 100% stake in Gleneagle Global Hospital Group and also a larger stake in the Fortis Hospitals Group. We've seen recently that Max has actually acquired JP Hospital, which has more than 25 acres of land, and they wish to scale it up to almost 1,000 beds. This acquisition was through the NCLT. Now, this slide gives you a perspective about the revenue, how it stacks up across some of the major players in the Indian healthcare ecosystem. We were just talking about, the number of beds, Manipal exceeding the number of beds, the Apollo and Manipal almost neck and neck. But look at the abysmal revenue. Apollo has 90,000 crore revenue, and the next competitor is Fortis with 6,500. Most of these numbers are available in the public domain because they are listed companies. Fortis is almost 1/3, and Manipal and Max Narayana trailing closely behind. Aster Medanta also slowly building up their bed strength and stacking up their revenue substantially. So these are some of the major acquisitions which have taken place. Temasek acquired 41% stake in Manipal at a valuation of $5 billion by infusing $2 billion there. They might acquire Healthcare Global and several other healthcare facilities, including certain stake in Medanta. Manipal has acquired Medica Synergy and Amri. IHH 100% stake in Gleneagle and 31% stake in Fortis. So Blackstone also 80% stake in KIMS. This is Kerala Institute of Medical Sciences. Blackstone entering with a bang. They have more than $1 trillion of assets under management, and they are currently one of the most aggressive private equity firms in the country. So before we look at how the EBITDA and revenue multiples stack up, let's have a quick look at how the RPOBs of various groups have increased over the last 4 years. So Max at the top from 2020 financial year till 2024, they've experienced 11% CAGR compounded annual growth rate. Artemis 6%. They've not even beaten the inflation. Apollo 11%, Rainbow 13% coming down last but one. KIMS almost 15%. This is a very important slide. It must show you when you look at the valuation of healthcare facilities and what goes on achieving this kind of valuation, EBITDA multiples or revenue multiples, and why the accent or focus is there on building the EBITDA margins, in the healthcare facilities, especially when you acquire a new hospital. So what are these most hospital groups doing? They're acquiring new healthcare facilities, especially the groups which have suboptimal EBITDA margins. They bring in efficiencies because they have been in this business for a long time. They understand the business dynamics. They bring in quickly technological, clinical, and talent interventions, pump up the EBITDA and other profitabilities into the ecosystem, and thereby substantially increasing their overall valuations and creating the value for their investors, employees, and other key stakeholders. As I was showing in that slide, what is the purpose of any business? This slide at a glance shows you how it stacks up for the major healthcare providers in the country. Let's have a look at Apollo. Okay. So first row, Apollo consolidated for its entire group. They have a valuation of more than 1 lakh crore. So there will be slight variation in the number of beds, how many operational beds are there, how many total beds are there in the ecosystem. So revenue of 19,000 crores, EBITDA margins of consolidated 13%. But purely for the hospital division, they have 24% EBITDA margin. Now, on the EBITDA margin, if you come down, Max has a healthy EBITDA margin at 27%, Fortis 19%, coming slightly below. One of the most efficient is Rainbow with 32% EBITDA margin, and the average EBITDA margin of 23%. Now, looking at the RPOB, the average revenue per operating bed of some of the best performing these listed companies is 55,000 to 80,000 rupees per bed. So if you have, let's say, average length of stay of 3 days, you multiply this number with 3 and you get average revenue per patient. And you can actually see how many discharges have been carried out in the entire hospital group over the entire financial year. Now look at the second last column, enterprise value to the bed. Right. So if you look at the Apollo hospital, so one bed, the cost per bed or the enterprise value of single bed in the hospitals of Apollo is 9.8 CR per bed. Coming down for Max, it is 23 CR. So what does it speak? It speaks that probably they have better EBITDA margins, as we can see. That is a factor. Their future potential for growth, new acquisitions in the pipeline, and some of the internal efficiencies they have. Now come to the last column of EBITDA multiple. So for Apollo hospitals, currently with their enterprise value is almost 35 multiples of their EBITDA. Max 45 multiples. Port is 31. Medanta 36. And if we come down, the average EBITDA multiple is 34.3. So tomorrow, in case a private equity firm wants to invest in any of these hospital groups, these are some of the multiples which they will be asking for diluting a particular stake. Right now, let's look at mid ARPOB range hospitals like Narayana, KIMS and all. Coming to the average, they have ARPOB of 20 to 45,000 rupees, average revenue per operating bed of 20 to 45,000, and the EBITDA margin of 22.6 times. Okay, now if you look at the revenue multiples of the hospital group, if we come to Apollo, so for consolidated, they have 2.11 times the revenue, multiple is there currently per bed. Okay, and so on and so forth for the other hospital groups. Now, for the recently concluded acquisitions, these are the multiples which have been given to these hospitals. For example, in the April of this year, Ujala Cygnus was acquired by General Atlantic, and the entire group was evaluated at 15 times the EBITDA multiple. Similarly, Aster, GCC Business, Care and KIMS Hospital, they are going to merge 14 to 15 multiples, Manipal 32.1 multiple. The average median score is 17.6 EBITDA multiple. See how critical the EBITDA multiple becomes for the valuation and growth in any hospital group. So when you acquire a new hospital, you bring in internal efficiencies, you double their EBITDA margin, and you have double the valuation there. Of course, the process of valuation is a little more complex, but I'm oversimplifying it for your sake that when any private equity firm or major hospital group acquires a small hospital which is suboptimally performing, they want to bring in internal efficiencies, ensure quick integration, and then improve the profitability over 2 to 3 years. So what are some of the contributory factors to increasing the average revenue per operating bed? Obviously, location. We'll talk a little more on this when we go to the greenfield or new hospital projects, what you should look at before citing a hospital. Product mix, what kind of specialties are there, high-end treatments, whether organ transplants are taking place, CABG, PTCA, so many other super specialty treatments, whether they are available or not. Okay, so there is one question. Is there a reason for high PE ratio? We see for some of the major ones like Apollo and KIMS. Okay, it will get addressed in some of the subsequent slides. Yeah, so some of the higher share of specialized surgeries, like I said, most hospitals should have Congo specialties. I'll be talking a little more on this in the subsequent slides, so you'll get a better perspective. All the high-end specialties are going to increase your average revenue and average revenue per operating bed and per patient. The pricing obviously will determine what kind of yield you are able to get from each patient. Good occupancy levels in the hospital, the higher the medical value travel, international patients coming to your facility, your average revenue patient and RPOB will continue to increase. And of course, increasing health insurance coverage, you will see larger volumes, and at marginal costs, you will be able to ensure better EBITDA margins. So what are those some of the turnaround strategies? Now that we've had a look at why the EBITDA margins are important, why the profitability in terms of EBITDA margins or profit after tax or revenue multiples are important. What does it entail to ensure the turnaround of healthcare facilities? First of all, why is turnaround needed? We discussed it, that to create value for the investors. For the small hospital chains, you really want to become an acquisition target for either a private equity firm or you would like to go public, which is through an IPO or a combination of both. So if obviously your aim will be to increase revenue and profitability, and with the ongoing consolidation in the industry, we all saw how Manipal, Fortis Max, Apollo are looking at consolidating by acquiring small hospital chains to increase their reach and clinical excellence across the country. So now we should look at, if you're looking at the turnaround of the healthcare facilities, obviously we need to have certain measurable KPIs. So what are those measurable KPIs which are going to drive efficiencies financially, operationally, clinically, administratively in your healthcare facility? So this slide, is little utopian. This is culled from my personal experience over the years. Many hospital groups would not have these kind of efficiencies in their current ecosystem. But you should set a higher benchmark so that your teams can actually aim to come somewhere closer. So if you look at the average length of stay, various studies have shown that you can, obviously when a patient comes to your hospital, we talk about patient centricity, that the overall interest of the patient should be uppermost in our minds, that the patient should have excellent outcomes, because that's what he's coming to your healthcare facilities to seek treatment. The patient must have good overall patient experience in your healthcare facility and go back fully cured, ensure holistic treatment of that patient in your facility. But looking at purely from the financial aspect and the overall profitability in your healthcare facilities, it has been found that you get maximum value out of a patient in the first 3 days. Patient comes to your hospital, quickly carry out all the diagnostics and pre-surgery or medical procedure formalities, put the patient through the surgery and quick recovery, and thereafter discharge. And then you bring the next patient in your ecosystem, and your throughput therefore is increasing over the entire month. What in case this A loss, you forget about this A loss, and you bring in a patient on the same day, carry out surgery or a small medical procedure, discharge the patient, then your number of beds available in that facility becomes redundant. So I was talking about, how the entire paradigm of number of beds is so defunct, that here, if you have a 200-bedded hospital with a lower A loss, 3 days A loss, it might actually be better than a facility which has an A loss of 6 days but 400 beds. Okay, so what is your throughput? How many patients can you discharge within your existing bed capacity? How many diagnostics you can carry out? How much pharmacy sales you can increase? And your other value-added services which provide holistic services in conjunction with your other revenue centers in the hospital, it is what actually determines the overall efficiency of hospital, in the value chain. So that's why, daycare surgeries as, standalone facilities like Apollo, Spectra, Nova, these are some of the hospital groups which are, opening their own daycare surgery centers. Patient comes quickly, small surgeries carried out, and patient is discharged. You can actually service large number of patients in 1 month with larger proportion of your costs being kept as variable and very small proportion being kept as fixed costs, which leads to better profitability. So as I said, smaller ALOS will ensure a higher bed turnover. Your OPD footfall, when the patients are coming to your hospital, as a CEO, I always measure whether there is a day-to-day increase in the OPD footfall in the hospital, month-to-month increase in OPD footfall, year-to-year increase in OPD footfall. But as a hospital CEO, facility director, or the group CEO, my concern is also how many new registrations in the OPD footfall are there every day, because that will determine my growth. Because from your existing clientele who are loyal to you, there will always be a certain amount of churn or attrition. So this new registration will actually ensure your day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year growth. Your bed occupancy, should be 80% or higher. As I was saying, that the national level bed occupancy in India is just less than 60%. So if your facility is 80% and above, depending on the clinical excellence of a healthcare facility, if it's a new hospital, you will start inching closer to profitability with 35 to 40% of your bed occupancy. Right? If you have 80% and above, it just means that all your revenue centers are going to start cranking optimally. Your OTs, ICUs, diagnostics, pharmacy, and other revenue centers. Right? Ideally, in your hospital, 100% of your business should be cash business, because then your accounts receivable will reduce, your working capital woes will be minimized, and you will be able to service your salaries, administrative expenses, pay out your vendors in time, and ensure new acquisitions, addition of new specialties, beds, adding new capacities, and continuously improving the overall profitability of your company. Right? With a higher proportion of credit business, a lot of your working capital is going to get locked, and it might create a lot of challenges to manage your working capital in either the hospital or entire hospital group. So therefore, most hospitals try to have more than 60% of the business in terms of cash business, cash paying patients. So just to give you an example, there is a hospital in Gurgaon with a turnover of 170 crore per month. They have close to 50% of their business, which is credit business, CCHS, CGHS, Ayushman Bharat, and some of the other state government health schemes. So while that is your bread and butter, especially for a new healthcare facility, but in the bigger healthcare facilities as well, because the rates of these Ayushman Bharat and other schemes are also continuously improving. If you have your internal efficiencies in place, this business will contribute to your occupancy, your filling up your spare capacity at marginal cost, thereby increasing your EBITDA margins and profit after tax. Typical OPD to IPD conversion in multi-super specialty hospitals is 10 to 15%. If you are a single specialty hospital, this number could be higher, depending on your specialty that you're currently providing. Right? But this is just a benchmark. Obviously, high ARPP and RPOB is desirable. 50% of your business in most hospitals will come from 5 to 10 kilometer radius of your hospital, right? About 25% will come from your neighboring districts or neighboring states. If you are a tertiary care, quaternary care hospital, you should get a balance of your business from international patients or MVT business. Today, most of the legacy players, major legacy players have 8 to 10% of their top line contribution from international business. And this will increase in future. Some of the hospitals, just to tell you, in Delhi NCR, this 170 crore hospital has around 15 crore business coming from medical value travel or international patient. There are two more hospitals, both with a top line of around 80 crore. One is doing 25 crore business from international patients, and the other one is doing almost 20 crore per month from international patients. So a larger proportion of international patients will contribute to your higher average revenue per patient and higher revenue per operating bed, and also to your higher EBITDA margins, which will lead to better, hospital level and group level valuation of the enterprise. Pharmacy stocking, extremely important. It should not be more than, it should be as low as possible, but definitely not more than 18 to 22 days. Just to give you an example, there was a hospital in one of the groups that I was working earlier, JCI accredited hospital in Hyderabad, which was, which had a pharmacy stocking of more than 100 days. Imagine your working capital is getting logged into your stores. You will have major problems of working capital management, right? So there is a question about calculating the bed turnover, right? So as I was saying, that the bed turnover is a function of average length of stay. So what happens is typically, the admissions and discharges are kept to the barest minimum on Sundays and holidays. So let's say you have 30 days, ideally 30 days. If you have 3 as your average length of stay, you should have 10 bed turnover, that your beds can be turned over 10 times. So what happens is, on the Sundays and holidays or on the weekends, there are larger proportion of discharges in the facilities, which most of you would have seen. So if you take a safer 4 Sundays out, 2 holidays out in a 30-day month, you have 24 days left. You divide by the average length of stay, you get 8 bed turnover. So if you have 100 beds, you can discharge 800 patients. Right? So continuing now. So, I was just talking about the stocking levels, why keeping them optimal is going to be substantially, important. Okay, so there is another question. How feasible is it to manage a hospital with all cash? What percentage of cash is practically possible in a 50-bed hospital? So this will also be a very good question. This will also be, dictated by whether the facility is accredited. What happens is, if you are a NABH accredited hospital, or even if you have entry level accreditation, you will get around 10% lower from your eligible rack rate, which you would have negotiated with the insurance company or TPA. If you are fully NABH accredited, then you get 100%. But what happens is, if you are a NABH hospital, you would definitely like to partake of an insurance and TPA business. You also become eligible for ECHS, CGHS, Ayushman Bharat and state government health schemes. So patients who are beneficiaries of these schemes can come and take treatment in your hospital, and at a predetermined package rate, you can provide cashless treatment to these patients. So most hospitals, let's say you are a 50-bedded hospital and you are NABH accredited. So willy-nilly, you will have certain credit business also as part of your top line. If you do not have any NABH accreditation, then obviously, unless you partnered with a company such as, Ayush Pay, which is my company, we partner with such small hospitals and also process their insurance, reimbursement financing. We do for them, so they can accept insurance patients also, and we handle their reimbursement cases. But in case you do not have a partner who can take care of your reimbursements and you do not have NABH accreditation, 100% of your business will be cash paying, even if it is a very small proportion. You would be hitting much below your potential in terms of your top line, but you would have 100% of your business as cash business. So most hospitals, why to have some of these, schemes, and for that you need accreditation. At least NABH entry level you must have, and some of the more specialized tertiary care and quaternary care hospital groups would have JCI accreditation. So currently there are more than 40 JCI accredited hospitals in the country and 16 to 1,700 NABH, fully NABH accredited hospitals, all across the country. So we've had a look at some of these important drivers and KPIs. So how do they actually impact your unit economics? So last bullet in this slide. Typically, in a hospital, the doctor and the consumable costs would be 35 to 36%. Your staff salaries would take away 10 to 15% of your top line. Administrative and miscellaneous expenses, your gas, your statutory compliances, all other, running of vehicles, travel expenses, hotel stays, and other expenses would be 10 to 15%. To ensure EBITDA margins of 25% and above. So we had a look at the top line of some of these hospitals. They had EBITDA margins of more than 25%. So you can imagine some of their unit economics are very strong. Their A losses are close to somewhere between 3 and 4. Their conversion ratios from OPD to IPD are much higher. Their bed turnover ratios are higher. They are doing substantial business in medical value travel. A lot of their business is cash, but they do also have some of these credit businesses, and their bed occupancies are optimally performing. Okay, so I think, yeah, so there is one question: what cost saving opportunities can be identified without sacrificing the quality of care? So Dr. Rao, fantastic question. Most hospitals, will come to cost optimization, what exactly it entails. Most hospitals would have a cost optimization strategy in place. As part of that, they have package rates, and for every treatment, let's say there is a CABG or a PTCA, which is stent, or CABG is open heart surgery, or TKR, total knee joint replacement, whether it's single or bilateral, or there is a kidney transplant, liver, lung, heart, pancreatic transplants, or hand transplants, or so many other kinds of transplants are there. You would have identified and made a list of consumables, that these are recommended consumables, and that's why for cost optimization you need to take into confidence all the key stakeholders, including doctors. You don't have the buy-in of the doctors in the value chain to bring about cost efficiencies. If you don't have the buy-in of the OT staff, the nurses in your hospital, operations managers, then you will not be able to ensure cost efficiencies, and your ARPOB, ARPP would become totally redundant, and you will be clocking substantially lower EBITDA margins in your hospital. Right, so the cost is included in doc club with consumers. So this is just one of the ways you can have these costs separately also. There is absolutely no problem. All right, so now let's have a look at some of the turnaround strategies for hospitals. So there are two types of hospitals. One is greenfield project. Greenfield hospitals are basically which you build on a parcel of land, you acquire a parcel of land, you plan a facility, you construct the facility, and then you run and become profitable. Brownfield projects are basically hospitals which are already functioning. You have acquired them recently and you bring in efficiencies and you make them improve their overall revenue and profitability. So let's have a look at some of these greenfield projects. So we were discussing that, the profitability of the hospital, its break even, everything should be factored in from the day one of planning. So that's why most of the hospitals carry out a feasibility study. I carried out the feasibility study. I gave it to one of the top market research firms for a hospital for which I gave a contract to Larsen and Toubro in a particular region in Karnataka, a 400 and 50 bedded hospital, multi super specialty hospital. So this market research firm actually carried out a study of the entire market. How many total CABGs, BTCAs, TKR, THR, liver transplant, lung transplant, kidney transplants are being carried out in that whole region? What is the market size? What is this current gaps in that ecosystem? What is the size of the market in each treatment in the value chain you can corner? And what will be your revenue projections for the first 5 years, first year, second year, third year? And what should be your target specialty wise? How many CABGs in the first year? How many in the second year, third year, fourth year, and fifth year? And what will it take for you to break even? So even the bed, how many square feet to a bed? Today, most of the JCI accredited hospitals would have more than 1,000 square foot to a bed. Some have lower. If you look at Apollo Greens Road, it's around 800. Some hospitals have even 1,200 also. 1,200 square feet to a bed. So if you are going for JCI, and that's what you are looking at, building international business, some of the patients, would be looking at JCI accredited facilities, right? So you would want to have, your beds being planned accordingly. Then what specialties you must have, what kind of equipment you must have. Should you have oncology also or not? If you have oncology, should you have linear accelerator, PET-CT machine, cyber knife? If you are going to have a multi-organ transplant centers, high-end MRI, blood bank, and so many other specialties, then you must have clinical talent also accordingly being mapped out, planned, and as part of your overall talent acquisition strategy. So ideally, most of these greenfield projects should be available in the areas which have a large natural footfall, like residential complexes, business centers, bus station, railway station, airport, educational institutions, crossroads, where naturally there is a footfall, and your hospital happens to be naturally located for the patients to reach out quickly through whatever means available. And you can expect your facility to break even early. The counterpoint is that the cost of your project will go up substantially. If you're located all these places, obviously the land prices will be high and the cost of construction and everything else will go up. but so will your break-even period reduce substantially if you have a facility located at an opportune location. So obviously your infrastructure, clinical excellence are other things that you need to plan. And as I was saying, that your feasibility study will throw open what kind of top end, Congo specialties. Congo is basically cardiac sciences, ortho, neuro, gastro, and oncology. plus the organ transplant, heart, lung, kidney, pancreas. And I hope you know that today, even uterine transplants can be taken. There are very few doctors who are doing it, but it is something that can be carried out as well. Okay, so what needs to be done? You are a greenfield project. Typically, it can take anything 6 to 8 years from the planning to operational construction, operationalization, and break even for a healthcare facility. The time for feasibility study and planning of the facility can take, or arranging the cash. Sometimes what happens is somebody will give land, you evaluate that cost of that land, somebody brings in capital for the construction and equipment installation, and then you have a project and everybody gets the proportionate share in that overall project. Sometimes some of the hospital groups reach out to the government facility, local government, state government, or union territory, acquire land at concessional rates and reserve certain number of beds, 20%, 10%, depending on the cost of the land, which is reserved for the weaker sections or, other government mandated patients in your facility. So your cost of project, overall project, will come down substantially if you can get some land free of cost. And of course, in the zoning of the city planning, you get certain areas wherein hospitals are permissible and the government land can be allocated to you at subsidized rates. Okay, so for design and construction, typical period is anything from 18 months to 2 years. Operational break-even 3 to 4 years. So 6 to 8 years is a broad guideline. It is not sacrosanct. More efficient groups, we've seen some of them have actually reduced this period to almost half, depending on what kind of mastery you have over the internal processes through the years you have mastered. You are able to hire clinical talent quickly, bring in the required technological interventions, good clinical and operational talent, and you are able to scale up the facility, scale up the revenue, and thereafter improve the profitability. So obviously the clinical talent and operational talent is very, very important, and nothing gets done without a strong marketing, branding, and PR paradigm. Just to tell you, in one 400-bedded hospital, which I took over immediately after I took over as the group CEO of a chain of hospitals in Bangalore, in my last organization. 400-bedded hospital, which ran for 3 years, they had a revenue of just 7 lakhs. And it was touted as a failed facility. In the next 2.5 years, we took that hospital from 7 lakh to 7.5 CR. Okay, today, 4 years after we left that hospital, it is still somewhere around 7.5, 8 CR. So in that hospital, in the first year, I spent almost 9 crore on marketing, branding, and PR activities. And that got me very good visibility in the immediate neighborhood. And of that 7.5 CR, 1 CR came as the contribution from medical value travel, which I built locally. And I also opened my centers in some of the Eastern European, Eastern African countries and in Bangladesh. So one of the questions is, can you please elaborate on the waste disposal cost and profitable methods for community? So This is a very small cost which is there for most of the hospitals. There is no set industry benchmark really. But this is one of the very, very important, you can say, factors for ensuring infection control in many healthcare facilities. I have visited some of the healthcare facilities in tier 2, 3 cities wherein waste disposal is very poorly managed, and it leads to a large number of infections, and hospital acquired infection is going to be one of the very, very important parameters in future as we slowly move towards value-based care. So right now there are no benchmark costs available, but definitely very important from the perspective of infection control perspective in the hospital. So as far as the brownfield projects are concerned, we've seen some of these bigger hospital chains are consolidating. They are acquiring some of the sub-optimally performing units, which are operating on the lower spectrum of the EBITDA margins, 5% EBITDA margins, 6% EBITDA margins, or they've been running inefficiently for many years, but they've not achieved break-evens, or they've not become EBITDA positive. Forget about profit after tax. So they acquire these suboptimally performing facilities, bring in internal efficiencies, hire good clinical talent, bring in the required specialties, high-end neurosurgery, ortho, onco, organ transplants, which are high yield, which increase your revenue, which increase your EBITDA margins and profit after taxes, which reduce your, A loss, higher throughput, more number of discharges, higher revenues, and, thereafter higher profitability. Also, aim for bringing the international patients, because the typical cost for the same treatment are 50 to 80% higher on the international patients. Right. So, aim is to acquire these suboptimally performing units, bring in internal efficiencies, improve their asset utilization, bring in new specialties, new lines of treatment, hire good clinical talent, have the right pricing strategy, have a proper, prudent marketing branding paradigm in the hospital, improve the visibility, improve the brand recall, trust, have consistency in your outcomes, and change the mindset of the staff. Most of the people think that this revenue is good enough, so they are in a maintenance mode. You need to change their mentality and ensure month-on-month growth, so that your manpower is actually growth oriented. Your EBITDA margin should increase, your profit after taxes should increase, and thereby improving your brand recall. Your facility will be patronized by more people, and your enterprise will become more valuable over time. So how do you, what are some of the turnaround strategies? You've spoken a lot about some of the value drivers in the healthcare facility. So what kind of turnaround strategies we are looking at? So one is the revenue enhancement. Second is cost optimization. So if you have to improve the profitability of any organization, healthcare organization, or any other organization, you have to consequently increase its revenue and also optimize costs. So there are certain benchmark costs in terms of manpower, consumables, everything in the hospital ecosystem. Right. So while you increase the revenues, you also look very closely at your entire stack of costs, manpower costs, consumables, water, electricity, other administrative costs, transportation, which lead to every single pie saved there adds to your EBITDA margin. Right. So if you have to turn around a healthcare facility after its acquisition, you will look at how to enhance revenue. You will also consequently look at how to optimize costs. I'm not using the word reduce. Reduce is a negative term. Optimize. Optimize means basically you are looking at efficiencies without compromising on the quality. And of course, there are certain softer aspects which we shall be having a look at in the subsequent slides. Any questions, anybody so far?
I think there are few questions, sir, in the chat. I know timing is of essence here. Let me know if we should pick it now or should we continue with the session and pick it up in the end.
Okay, so I think we will continue. There are any questions that we were not able to address till now, we will be able to address them once we finish it. Right?
Perfect.
Okay. So for revenue enhancement, whether it's for greenfield or brownfield project, basically it's average revenue per patient and number of discharges being carried out. So how do we increase the average revenue per patient? So basically, if a hospital is quaternary care, you carry out the organ transplants. Okay, some of the Congo specialties, cardiac sciences, ortho, neuro, gastro, oncology, organ transplants, emergency and trauma. These are some of the departments which have to operate optimally. So you have the right clinical talent, you have the right infrastructure or specialties in your hospital in line with the kind of treatment you want to provide. As per the Pareto's principle, 80% of your revenue will come from these super specialty treatments, right? The other revenue come from all your other smaller surgeries and medical handling of cases. So obviously, if you are handling tertiary care, quaternary care in your hospital, it will lead to higher average revenue per patient and higher average revenue per operating bed. Right. So obviously, you need to spend on the capex for building new facilities, new beds, increasing the cutting edge technology, bringing in, let's say, linear accelerator, high end MRI machine, or other proton therapy or cyber knife, and you have a lot of other high end treatments which are being carried out today across the healthcare facilities, depending on what kind of capex you want to incur in that facility, you can bring in the clinical excellence, right? Obviously, your pricing strategy has to be in sync with the market trends, whether you are a quality leader or a cost leader. If you look at across the spectrum of the major hospital chains, Fortis Max Apollo, or other hospital groups which are in the quaternary care ecosystem, your pricing strategy has to be competitive and it has to include domestic as well as international patients. So medical value travel business will, the industry is growing healthy. It is going to increase your average revenue per patient and also improve the asset utilization across your entire value chain. Obviously, you need to have very strong marketing, branding, and PR paradigm in your ecosystem. So there is a question, can you provide us with your PPT? Yes, so I shall be sharing it, don't worry. This PPT is yours. So there is a question, can you provide us a little more information about the Congo specialty? So basically, these are the top end super specialty treatments, cardiac sciences. So all your, cardiothoracic surgeries and, stenting and other cardiac procedures, orthopedics, TKR, THR, and other spinal or bone related work, neurosciences, gastroenterology business, your orthopedics business, right? So that's how it is. And of course, organ transplant, heart transplant, lung transplant, kidney, pancreas, uterine transplant. Today, you can also donate uterus. It can be transplant on somebody, right? So that's about that. So another paradigm is to increase the throughput. So you should have higher number of discharges, more diagnostics, MRI, CT, X-ray, all these tests should be there. PET CT scans, pharmacy sales, higher proportion in your facility, right? So we need to have better conversion from OPD to IPD. I had flashed that slide which said that 10 to 15% is the conversion from OPD to IPD, right? If you are a single specialty hospital, you might have a higher number of conversion from OPD to IPD because some of these patients have been pre-screened. They've been seen by a medical specialist in another hospital, internal medicine specialist. Then they will come to your facility because you are a referral center. So your conversions will be much higher, smaller average length of stay. So average length of stay will actually dictate your, how many discharges you can have. So the more the number of patients you can discharge in a healthcare facility within that existing capacity, it will be directly dictated by the average length of stay. So most efficient hospitals in the country today would have an ALOS between 3 and 4. 3 is ideal, 4 is good, but some of the hospitals would also have, somewhere between 4 and 4.5. So you can see how many times you can turn over your beds. So if you have 24 working days in a month, if your ALOS is 4, you can turn over your 200 bed. Let's say 200 bed is the capacity of the hospital. You can actually turn over the number of beds 6 times. So if 200 beds are there, you can turn over 6 times is, it's 1200 discharges in that particular hospital. So smaller the average length of stay, higher the number of discharges, higher the revenue, and better the profitability and EBITDA margins in that hospital. Right now, the second parameter is asset utilization. Like I was saying, that better bed turnover or other revenue centers in the hospital, or diagnostics, pharmacy sales, they have to also, improve in sync. And if your hospital has good number of daycare surgeries, now, see, we have those hospital chains like Apollo, Spectra, Nova. They have a lot of daycare hospitals, so they have a faster throughput, more daycare surgery. Patients comes, basic tests are carried out earlier, patient gets admitted, surgery carried out, discharged the same day, and thereafter patient will come for review. Now imagine your hospital has very less number of beds and you have more discharges every day and your throughput is higher. You actually enter a state wherein your discharges are higher, your yield per patient, your EBITDA margins, your revenues, EBITDA margins, and your profit after tax goes up and your overall profitability increases. So a lot of quaternary care, tertiary care hospitals now are also carrying out day care surgeries in larger numbers so that they can ensure a better throughput. Right. So some hospitals also work on day and night shifts. And you can also carry out evening clinics because a lot of people who are working, they can take care of the elderly and the children and women in the afternoon. So many of these hospitals also have spokes or outreach clinics in the neighboring districts or neighboring states, or let's say some of the hospitals in Chennai, they are carrying out their OPDs and smaller procedures in Guwahati or other Calcutta or other northeastern states. Just to build clinical efficiency into the system, brand recall, everything works in sync, and patients come to the main facility for more high-end, quaternary care treatment. So the other revenue ramp-up initiatives, obviously, cancer, IVF, they will lead to, increase in your overall revenue. So marketing, branding, and PR is a massive subject. It's an ocean in itself. Obviously, it starts with your website. You have community engagement programs. Like I was saying, at least 50% of your business will come from your 5 to 10 kilometer radius, your neighboring districts, neighboring states. the rest of India, and of course, international business. If you can build 10 to 20% from international business, that will substantially build the credibility of your facility, increase your EBITDA margins and profit after tax. Right? You need to have good social media presence, search engine optimization. You celebrate WHO days, World Heart Day, cancer days, pink days we celebrate in the hospital, kidney days, diabetes days. Aim is to build that community outreach. Patient should get that confidence. Some hospitals call actor, actresses, or well-known public figure just to associate a particular institution with a celebrity, so that your overall brand recall and your hospital as a center of excellence in a particular specialty goes up dramatically, and you have a better footfall, and you can service more patient in the higher end treatments. Content marketing, I cannot overemphasize the importance of this. Patient testimonials, like you've seen on the website of most of the hospital, domestic and international patients. Hospitals which are into quaternary care, who also service international patients, they have large number of international patient testimonials, right? They have international patient lounges where patient is sitting and talking about what kind of beautiful, outcome he's had, or the overall patient experience was excellent. This is used as a kind of testimonial for other patients from that country or that particular geography in Africa, Middle East, SAARC countries, to build clinical credibility or confidence in getting more and more patients to your facility, to increase the footfall and overall credibility of the institution. Obviously, press conferences you will carry out in the hospital regularly. You carry out any new feat. There was a patient who came from Saudi Arabia, and patient was on the verge of dying, and you saved a life by carrying out a critical heart surgery or a new neuro intervention. With the use of advanced technology, you were able to save a life. Obviously, you would like to showcase this facility and get more patients to your hospital in future. Many hospitals have physician engagement programs. I went to Singapore, to IHH, Mount Novena, which is a 7-star hospital there. They had a very strong physician engagement program. Physicians who have consistently very good outcomes, they get more business. You look at value-based care in the US, that is precisely based on patronization of the healthcare facility, which have consistently very good outcomes. A hospital which has a very good 1 year, 5 year, 10-year survival rate after an organ transplant or a critical neurosurgery or a heart surgery or orthopedic surgery, would be sent more and more patients and will get better value from the some of these payers or the insurance companies or TPAs. So some of the softer aspects, obviously your teams have to be brought up to speed. Regulatory compliances have to be stuck to. Your hospital, if it is NABH, obviously there is a certain amount of respect associated with it, with the processes and clinical excellence, and of course the infrastructure which you might have. JCI hospitals obviously would come at a cost because of the space to bed ratio, the kind of clinical excellence you must have. Obviously you need to service a lot of domestic and high-end international patients to recoup your cost of investment or ROIC in that facility. You need to have good clinical engagement program, your company culture. Attrition has to kept to the barest minimum. You build brand recall. Initially, you spend a lot of money on building a very strong brand. I was in Africa, everybody knew Apollo, Fortis, Medanta, or Artemis, or some of the other bigger hospital chains. And that is because these hospitals have been working consistently over the last 20 years, going to even tier 2, 3 cities, carrying out OPDs and providing very good quality of services to the patients who go back and then refer more patients to your facility. Building very strong community engagement program. Most of the good hospitals have it. Sort out your unionization program, engage your employees and give them what best is available, what best you can do. This is very, very important aspect of handling your critical staff in the hospital, right? As far as the patient delight is concerned, I cannot overemphasize the importance of this critical aspect. ultimately the outcomes, what kind of look and feel your facility has, what kind of overall experience, happiness that patient has had in your facility, how the patient was looked after post surgery, how quickly he recovered, and how quickly patient was able to get back to work or get back to the family. In case there has been a grief, how nicely it was handled, or if there is a patient who can donate organs to your other patients who are in the waiting list, a heart, lung, kidney, or other organ, obviously you need to address the family of the patient pretty well. Right. So that's very, very important aspect of, softer aspects, which you need to, as the head of a facility or as the, part of the healthcare ecosystem, you need to take care of. Any quick resolution of disputes, you have to be inclusive. You need to speak in the language of the patient and their dependents, make them feel comfortable. Most of the 5-star, 7-star hospitals across the country, their reception area should look like a 5-star, 7-star hospital. All the chaos, all the clinical excellence is actually behind those 4 walls. All the clinical excellence is taking behind. But as you enter, there is calm, peace, quiet. Let me share with you one of the hospitals that I visited, Mount Novena in Singapore. That hospital had a patented fragrance in its reception area. So that is the level up to which the hospital groups are today going to make, feel the patients and their dependents comfortable in their facilities. So, coming to now the marketing branding strategies, obviously, why should we have the marketing strategy for the healthcare facilities? To firstly build your facility, to build the overall brand recall after giving them excellent overall patient experience in your facility, not just to the patient and their, dependents also, but everybody in the ecosystem, including your employees. So, often the employees are forgotten and they're at the front end of providing good clinical care. They are the ones who should be given the required, importance while providing the kind of treatment which a patient deserves. And everything else, as shown in this slide, will fall in place. So obviously your product, price, place, promotion of your facilities and the people concerned, who your own staff, they need to be absolutely made to feel at home. Then only they can look after your patients and their dependents. Right? These are some of the strategies which we need to look into. Some of them we've already had a look. So,
Sir, if I intervene, sorry to say, I think we are getting requests from participants. They are finding a lot of value. They don't want you to rush over. Maybe we'll do a second part of it to go deeper into the marketing side of
are
the
we good
thing.
for the time? Are we good
I
for the
think
time?
we are a bit over.
Okay.
So idea is that we can maybe take up questions and answers because a lot of things are being covered and people have a lot of questions. So if you are okay, maybe we'll park for
Yeah,
marketing.
I'll finish it in 5 minutes. Maybe then we can have another session on
Yeah, there is, you can
talking a
see in the
little more
chat, there is
about it.
Sir,
coming up.
आपने pull factor, you have created a pull factor.
Pull factor, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, great.
Good.
So, I wanted to talk more, maybe these are some of the, things born out of my personal experience. Like this hospital marketing strategies. I mean, this is my personal experience in most of the hospitals that I've either worked with or, taken care of. I'll just give me 5 minutes, Raghav, and
Sure, sir. I think
Manish.
people are going to do a separate.
I'll wind it up.
session.
Maybe we can revisit them in greater detail
Absolutely, we would love
subsequently.
to.
Yeah, so let me cover it so that we can close it and then revisit if need be later. So I was talking about the social media initially. More than 64% of the global population today has access to it. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Telegram. These are some of the major media which everybody is using. healthcare facilities, without exception, are trying to reach out to their customers through these initiatives to get access to more and more facilities. And we've already spoken about some of these digital initiatives, which form the backbone of your healthcare facilities in reaching out. So look at that red, maroon point at the bottom of the slide. So your campaigns, hoarding, print, they are becoming obsolescent, or currently they are working in sync with your other digital marketing initiatives. So because the world has moved to the digital space, and your print electronic media, of course, will have a value, but it has to be aligned with your digital marketing strategies, right? Cost optimization, obviously, manpower cost, doctor cost, some of the heads which we discussed earlier, they will have to be looked into quite deeply. I spoke about some of the benchmarks which you need to look into: doctor cost, consumables, staff cost, administrative cost. They have to be taken care of. This 100-day plan, ladies and gentlemen, I planned for one of the hospitals that I acquired in my last company when I was the CEO. Seven Hills Hospital, you might know, in Mumbai, JCI accredited 1800 bedded hospital. They have another hospital in Vizag, which has been acquired by MGM. I lost the battle in Supreme Court. So I couldn't really take over that hospital, but this is the 100-day plan which I worked out for that hospital. Okay, this is the plan for marketing and sales. Okay, priority, high, medium, how many days this program would last, and then pre-NCT approval and day-wise progress along the x-axis, and then specialty-wise along the y-axis. Similarly, governance structure in the hospital, about finance and control. What are the initiatives that need to be taken over a certain period of time so that the facility can be integrated with all the other hospitals in the group? So, like I was saying, when you acquire a hospital, you improve its internal efficiencies, improve its average revenue per patient, EBITDA margins, and overall profitability, so that you create value for its investors, employees, and other key stakeholders. So, the entire turnaround of the healthcare facilities, mergers and acquisitions, will be driven by the top leadership, by the facility directors, by the unit heads, by the regional CEOs, by the CEOs of the companies. Okay, and of course, the board of directors, who act as the brain behind building the ecosystem and providing the right kind of resources so that you can excel. So the floor is open for questions and answers. I'd love to talk more. Hospitals, marketing strategies. There's a question from Vishali madam, to understand more about the marketing strategies. Yes, definitely. Because today time is a little less. So, we were able to cover most of the major aspects. But if need be, we can revisit some of these aspects in due course of time. So if you have any more questions, I'll be quickly able to answer those.
No, totally, sir. I think people have a lot of questions. And I think for the marketing, there are definitely comments around having a separate session or something in future.
You have
We'll plan.
a demand for first time actually. This unprecedented actually. Now audience asks for say the part two. So certainly we'll
Sure.
have part two, and it's been very very comprehensive, no doubt about, very strategic. Yes.
Thank you so much. So each of these aspects that I discussed today is an ocean in itself. If you delve deeper into cost optimization, it's an ocean. I can talk about the micro level things because I've worked in some of those initiatives, but obviously some of the people in your ecosystem, value chain, doctors, your nurses, other operations, staff, diagnostics, pharmacy staff, everybody needs to be taken into confidence, into account, their concerns addressed, and then, we can turn any facility into a profitable enterprise with very good EBITDA margins, and you can go public, or you can become a target for acquisition by strategic investor or a private equity firm. So I am done.
Luckily, we
Yeah.
have Mr. Girish Joshi ji here. He is the country head of Medline of USA. Girish ji, are you there?
Right.
Hello, Girish ji. Girish ji, are you there? So
I can
they are
see
one of the
maybe there's
best
some
procurement organization in the world. So I thought, like, if it's there, I would request him to share some thoughts on procurement. Yeah. I think he's not there. Yeah. Yes, sir. Carry on, please.
Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. It's been pleasure speaking with you. This was just a drop in the ocean. But it's always lovely to interact with the industry friends and share knowledge. This is just the beginning. I'm sure we can talk a little more in future, and it'll be lovely to keep in touch with you all.
Sir,
Absolutely,
hello.
sir. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Yes,
Sir,
please.
yeah. So you gave a wonderful presentation. Thanks you for everything. And I liked your last Jai Hind as well. So it's like so motivating to keep everyone working towards the our whole country, motherland, like that. So my question for today, is like last few lines you told, like with everything, like you can turn a business that is like sinking to something profitable, or at least it
Yeah.
should be like not into at least loss, like that. So currently, like I would like to know, like what should be the basic steps to take when any business is going in the loss, and we have to make some certain steps in random, like how did you started for that hospital, like planning in within your head, how you plan it, means from your insights, how a leader thinks. Because when a person normally thinks, we think about so many challenges. Oh my god, it will take 5 years or 3 years, maybe, not knowing money, means monetary funds are not available, people's resources are not available, many disputes are there, and immediately jumping into that also is not possible, because you are already held up with other responsibilities as well. So how do you plan? Just if you can, architect level, you can give some plan, it will be good.
Yeah, so wonderful question, Monica madam. This is actually what most of us go through in the healthcare facilities, right? So first step should be to have a deeper look into your P&L. Okay, so look at your cost center. Obviously, if you are not a very profitable center, you need to look very deep into your revenue centers and cost structure. Whether your cost structure is in sync with the facilities which you are currently providing, or the specialties which you have in your hospital in line with the infrastructure, whether you have the right clinical and operational talent. I cannot overemphasize the importance of your clinical and operational talent. Do you have the right doctors? Do you have the right nursing staff in the key departments? Are your OTs adequately, structured and able to provide the kind of all the top specialties that I discussed? Is the organogram? I would typically start with an organogram of the hospital. Whether you have the right operational talent, then the clinical talent, right? Then your specialties, whether your Congo transplant specialties in the hospital are there or not, and whether when you look at your competitive dynamics in that region, city, region or that state, you will straight away know that this hospital is doing so many CABGs in a month, so many PTCAs, so many TKR, so many liver transplant, kidney, lung, heart transplant, and with the similar matching facility, I'm not able to stack up there. What are the reasons? Look at your marketing, branding, PR, right? Look at your manpower ratios. whether you have the typically in a multi-super specialty hospital, your overall manpower strength, 4 to 5 times your number of beds. If you are a 200 bedded facility, typically you might have 200 nurses. Okay, it might be lesser also depending on the efficiencies in your ecosystem. Depending on how many shifts you have and what kind of specialties you have in the hospital. 3 to 4 times the number of manpower. So if it's a 200 bedded hospital, optimally performing, it is EBITDA positive, you may have 3 to 4 times the number of manpower. So 200 bedded facility, you may be kind of 600 to 800 number of people who run that facility profitably with healthy EBITDA margins.
Okay.
Right. So that itself, it's a humongous subject in itself. I can have a separate discussion only on this. So just to tell you, I would look at the organogram, clinical excellence, operational excellence, optimizing each revenue centers, looking at very, very critically at your cost centers, whether you are overstaffed, understaffed, your other, consumable and other costs are stacking up or not, or you are overspending in your, overall cost center. So both revenue and cost centers have to be looked at critically, have the right clinical talent, operational talent, and you should be good to go for good, healthy EBITDA margins.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah. It was helpful.
Thank you.
Sir, can I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the session. It was very informative. The only thing is, I'm quite surprised that the waste disposal part is not part of the program, and it was not. And we don't have a proper benchmark for waste disposal, especially taking into consideration the very dangerous waste that a hospital produces. Why is that part not of the hospital management and the cost calculations in the hospital here? Can you please tell us that?
So, madam, that's a good question. On the waste disposal, I'd like to invite the views of somebody who has better domain expertise than me. So this is a very, very critical aspect of outcomes in a hospital. I mean, I have seen liver transplant patients, heart, kidney, surgery patients, with infection and TKR, THR patients undergoing revision surgeries because they had an infection post surgery. Right. So you touched upon a very critical aspect. No facility which doesn't control its infection properly can be successful unless you have very strong, waste disposal in the hospital. You have certain parameters within which you are supposed to have your waste disposal, in the hospital. Obviously, what is the cost structure? I think I'd like to invite more views. Somebody who is deeper into the quality paradigm, who's been working, somebody like you maybe, can throw more light into what should be the expense on, let's say, waste disposal in a hospital. How can it be better organized? You have, infection control nurse, you have your infection control meetings in the hospital, right? You have your OT meetings in which this is a favorite topic which is discussed. How many readmission rates, hospital-acquired infections, falls. Those are some of the KPIs we monitor in a good healthcare facility every month. And somebody like you handles those questions with quite, a lot of passion.
So, madam, would you like, sir, I'll just, so a very, say, pertinent, say, advice.
Yeah.
Would you like to be, madam?
It's only that everybody in the hospital needs to be conscious of the hospital waste management and the hospital.
Would you like to have a session on? I mean, would you like to talk on this session?
Definitely, I think that's most important for most
Why don't you
hospitals.
share your coordinates? We will also have a session. Sir, it's happening for the first time actually. Would love to have you guys ever.
That's
Sir,
good.
I am a biomedical engineer basically. So we
Ji.
had a subject around this in our college days for hospital waste management and everything like it is not like directly scrapped. Everything is taken care. And I used to stay in MGM hospital itself in the campus. So we had a sterilization unit also, and we had like all the medicine, syringes, needles, everything. They used to burn out also. Electrocution unit was there within the hospital as well. So that was taken care. And even the organs or any blood or any those kind of things also were used to be burned down. So there was a dumping place and burning sites as well. So, and that also through electrocution only they used to kill, desterilize it and then do it. So this is already taking care in the being taken care in big hospitals. Like I was staying in Mumbai in MGM hospital, so I have seen
MGM,
these things.
MGM Vashi.
No, MGM Panvel, Navi Mumbai.
So you have a Panvel also, because there is one at Vashi.
Yeah, Vashi is also there, but I used to stay in Panvel. So I have seen these facilities were there, and they used to come and by electrocution, then everything, the disposable and everything, segregation, everything was done. Yeah.
Actually, the question is not on when hospitals have the facilities or not. Actually, it's mandated for all hospitals to have all these facilities, and they need to dispose it in proper way. But then the question is also on the community waste disposal of the hospital waste. Where does it go, and how does it get back into system, into the rivers and into the streams, and how the community living around the hospitals are also in a kind of endangered by the infectious waste created in these hospitals. So that's also a point I was referring to, where there's a need for a larger community involvement, both at the district, at the state levels, and the national level, to take care of the biological waste that's produced in the hospitals. Inside a hospital, of course, everybody needs to have all these facilities: the incinerator and the proper disposal and the collection mechanisms, segregations, and all that.
Yeah, but outside hospital, it is not there.
Beyond the hospital is also a bigger danger of these waste. Where does it go, and how does it come back into the system? That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, earlier it like at some places I have seen like medical waste is separate, and like dry waste and wet waste is separate, but it is not followed. I must say, like, it is not at all followed and not at all strict. Do whatever it is, like in India, it's too much. We are far more away from this restrictions and basic things also.
Absolutely. I think, ma'am, it would be great for you to take some session on this, and we'll coordinate. If you share the details here, we'll reach out and look for that session. But definitely, Colonel Hemraj sir, I think it has been the first time that we had such a enriching session that went with so much participation and engagement, and request for another one. Like there was repeated multiple chat to hold on the marketing, because people would love to learn more. So, but thanks again for taking precious time and sharing this knowledge. I think there are a few more questions. If there's any more question, we'll coordinate it offline, and we'll work with sir to organize another session to cover some of the marketing strategies and the learnings, and also a lot of Q&A in that session. But thanks again for all the participation and engagement.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.